In the first scene, we are introduced to a shy and innocent teenager who studies at a strict Catholic high school. The place is so strict that many students stop coming after the first few days. The discipline teacher makes sure to check all the girls minutely when it comes to appearance. She even measures their skirts to verify if they are of appropriate length. The school is also notorious for its ultra-religious beliefs. Lying is considered a sin, and watching romantic movies is deemed punishworthy. While most of the students agree with it, Alice, who is going through an intense adolescent phase, is confused. She is very curious about erotic stuff. The school's principal, Father Murphy, usually takes sex ed classes, where he explains that coitus without the purpose of reproduction is a sin. One day, a curious student inquires if self-coitus, i.e. jacking off, is legal. Father Murphy simply cross-questions him, "Does that produce babies?" He also makes it clear that any form of intercourse before marriage will result in everlasting misery. Alice has a hard time comprehending all this as her sexual desires keep growing with every class. On one hand, her teacher strictly advises her against those fantasies, but on the other hand, her body needs it. She becomes even more confused when her best friend, Laura, doesn't support her feelings. The latter believes that students their age should simply focus on their studies. Later, when Alice reaches home, she immediately sits next to her computer and opens the popular online chat room, AOL. As she is going through various rooms, she suddenly gets a message from an unknown guy by the username, HairyChest1956. He has sent some unsolicited and explicit images of him doing it with his wife. Alice, who has never seen such pictures before, immediately turns off the monitor in disgust. But shortly after, curiosity gets the better of her, so she turns on the monitor and starts scrolling through the images. Minutes later, HairyChest1956 again messages her. He wants to know her ASL. Alice doesn't know what that means, so he explains to her in detail. After Alice lies that she is a 22-year-old girl from Iowa, the man asks for her picture. Slightly scared, she sends him a photo of her friend instead. This excites the man even more, so he starts sending her erotic messages. Alice just reads in bewilderment as she doesn't understand most of the words. As the chat continues, the man inquires if she is pleasuring herself. Alice has never done it before, but when the man reassures her that it's fine, she slides her hand inside. All of a sudden, Alice starts feeling wonderful, but before she can explode, her mother arrives home. She hurriedly turns off the monitor and rushes towards the kitchen. The next day at school, as Alice and Laura are having lunch in the cafeteria, a popular girl approaches them and says, "I cannot believe Alice tossed Wade salad." She also mentions that the entire school is buzzing with this rumor. However, Alice denies doing that, saying she doesn't even know what the phrase means. She also asserts that she never talks to Wade, the nerdy classmate who always looks high. After the popular girl leaves, Alice takes out the cover of a chocolate filling and starts licking it. Unsurprisingly, this makes the guys nearby burst out in laughter. Wade and his girlfriend also arrive there and call Alice disgusting. Later, the discipline teacher hears about the rumor and forbids Alice from serving during Mass. She also warns the teenager to be careful, as God is watching her. In the evening, Alice, who is feeling guilty about the AOL chat incident, confesses her venial crimes to Father Murphy. The latter does not scold her, but he politely asks her to refrain from such things. As a form of punishment, he tells her to recite the prayer 20 times, which she instantly does. In the next scene, both Alice and Laura decide to attend the school's upcoming retreat, where the students will be taught how to get closer to God. Alice sees this as the perfect opportunity to return to the path of righteousness, while Laura wants to be noticed by a popular senior named Nina. When they arrive at the campgrounds, Alice cannot take her eyes off of a retreat leader, Chris, who also happens to be the captain of the school football team. On the other hand, Laura is excited to finally see Nina, who is another retreat leader, but the two get selected in the opposite groups, making them upset. Later, Nina leads Alice to her room and asks her to hand over all her gadgets and devices. Alice hands her watch, but she keeps her phone with herself. The next morning, all the students gather in the main hall, where Father Murphy starts one of his boring lectures. He says that they have been summoned to this trip by none other than the Almighty God himself. Once the students survive his lecture, they are asked to take part in a survey. In a form, a variation of feelings are mentioned, and the students will have to circle the ones they felt throughout the year. Alice circles some of them, along with the word turned on. After the time is up though, she has a change of thoughts. She tries to erase the circle over turned on but can't, so she simply crosses out the word before submitting the form. For the next exercise, the students are asked to come on stage and express anything they want to say. Nina takes this as the perfect opportunity to become the center of attraction. She goes on about how her family ignored her when she was a kid. The plan works and all the students circle her and give her a warm hug. That night, as Alice is sneakily using her cell phone, she suddenly gets an idea. She puts the device on vibration mode and then shoves it between her legs. Alice suddenly starts having butterflies in her stomach, and a weird sensation she has never felt before. However, when she sees the crucifix hanging in her room, she stops. On the second day of the retreat, all the students are taken on a hike through the woods. A girl accidentally trips, so Chris helps her up elegantly. This gives Alice an idea, so she fakes an injury and calls him for help. He immediately goes to her, picks her up, and takes her to a nurse. Alice is over the moon. In her mind, she is having multiple hormonal explosions. The retreat is turning out to be a good one for her so far. But unfortunately, in the evening, Nina finds out about her cell phone when it unexpectedly starts vibrating. It is immediately confiscated, and Alice is sent to Father Murphy. As a punishment, he assigns her to cleaning duties around the retreat house. Alice obliges and starts clearing right away. A few hours later, while she's still at it, she notices a computer inside Father Murphy's room. Since there is no one, Alice silently opens his computer and logs onto AOL anonymously. Then, she inquires what tossing the salad actually means. Unfortunately, the people in the chat room give her different answers and none of them seem to be conclusive. At the same time, Alice hears some footsteps approaching, so she hastily turns off the monitor, not realizing that the computer is still open. On her way out, she runs into Nina, who light-heartedly guilts Alice about her presumed encounter with Wade. Nina further adds that she is not mad at her for illegally sneaking in her phone. Instead, she is hopeful that Alice is on the right path towards righteousness. On the third day, Chris gathers a bunch of students and asks them to confess their regrets if they have any. He says that confessions help people relieve their stress and stay focused. One by one, all the students explain their sob stories. One talks about his recent breakup with his girlfriend, while another mentions how she couldn't attend her grandmother's funeral. When it's Alice's turn, she has nothing to say, so she just lies that her dog was poisoned to death, and she couldn't save him. The story touches one of the students so deeply that she starts crying. Later, as all the students are in the cafeteria, Father Murphy shows up with an anxious look and reveals that someone accessed explicit content on his computer. He then tells the culprit to claim responsibility as soon as possible. When no one utters a word, he leaves, saying his favorite catchphrase, "God is watching." The incident frightens Alice, but she decides to keep her secret concealed. In the next scene, all the students are called to Father Murphy's office one by one. He wants to check if they are making progress. Soon, it's Alice's turn, and the first thing she is asked is about her relationship with God. She simply replies it's good. After this, Murphy asks her why she circled the word turned on. Alice explains that she felt it before coming to this retreat, but now, she feels nothing. Before leaving, Father Murphy talks about her rumor with Wade, and even presses her to confess it. But Alice, who still doesn't know what the actual rumor is, tells him that she is innocent. The same day, as Alice is cleaning the cafeteria, Wade decides to wind her up by littering around. She angrily asks him what's his problem, but before he can answer, Father Murphy arrives there and takes him away. Shortly after, when Alice resumes her cleaning, she finds Wade's bracelet, which he had dropped earlier. She keeps it in her pocket and heads to the kitchen, where she notices something shocking. Nina is kissing, and then filleting a random guy in the woods. Alice is left in utter disbelief, but she is also aroused. Hence, she puts the mop handle between her thighs and calms her hormones. Once she is done, she rushes to her best friend, Laura, and shares what she saw. However, the latter refuses to believe her. Instead, she chastises Alice for saying such evil things about her idol Nina. She even accuses her of using AOL on the father's computer, and calls her a pervy psycho. Fed up with everyone trying to judge her, Alice goes straight into Father Murphy's office and plants Wade's bracelet under the keyboard. But before she can leave, Murphy returns, forcing her to hide inside the closet. Surprisingly, the Holy Father starts knocking one out to some adult content he has stored in his holy computer. Alice, who witnesses everything, gets so disgusted that she closes her eyes and turns her head around. Outside, she meets Chris, who asks her if she is okay. He also insists on talking to her, to make her feel good. Alice thinks he is into her, so she kisses him passionately. Unfortunately, Chris finds it very weird and runs away, crying. At night, when everyone is busy with their prayers, Alice sneaks out of the campgrounds to have some fresh air. She stumbles upon a lesbian bar, where she and the owner, Gina, commiserate about how the fear of damnation can warp an adolescent's development. The teenager asks Gina about why everyone wraps around a fake image to impress others and hide who they really are. She further adds that she is afraid to explore and commit small mistakes, afraid of the fact that she will go to hell. Seeing her depressed, Gina reveals her own story. She explains that she was also brought up in a Catholic school, where the rules were extremely strict. However, she didn't let them change herself, and now, she is a totally different person than what was expected of her. Hearing this, Alice becomes somewhat happy. After their conversation ends, Gina gives her a ride back to the retreat. She also encourages her to look into colleges that are much more open-minded. Before she returns, Alice has one last question. She wants to know the meaning of tossing someone's salad. Gina laughs for a while and finally reveals that it means licking someone's rectum. Alice also pretends to laugh, but deep down inside, she is horrified. On the last day of the retreat, as all the students are having breakfast, Father Murphy abruptly pulls Wade away. Turns out that his bracelet has been found, making him the perpetrator in the father's eyes. With this, Laura also makes peace with Alice, and promises to not judge her again. Surprisingly, she also reveals that Wade is gay. He simply spread the rumor of Alice tossing his salad in order to conceal his true identity. Later, in the sharing session, Wade is made to apologize for all the horrific atrocities he has committed. Once he is done, Father Murphy asks if anyone wants to go next. Alice immediately volunteers and begins her speech. She explains that everyone has something to hide, but that doesn't make them a bad person. Some things are best unsaid. She also encourages everyone to not follow rumors and respect everyone equally, just like Jesus did. Following this, the scene skips to a few days later. At school, Alice runs into Chris, but he is still uneasy about the earlier incident. He thinks that Alice will kiss him again, but when she promises that she just wants to be friends, he calms down. That evening, Alice heads to the reconciliation room with Father Murphy, where she nonchalantly reveals that she watched an adult video during the retreat. When she starts explaining the specifics of the video, Father Murphy realizes that it's his favorite one. Both of them know what's up, but they do not speak about it. Before leaving, Alice asks if she will get punished for watching the explicit content, and Murphy, with shame in his eyes, says I don't know. In the final scene, Alice reaches home and plays the videotape of her favorite movie, Titanic. She forwards to the intimate scene and prepares to trigger her hormones. The movie ends as she notices a vibrator nearby, possibly belonging to her mother.